addressing the situation.
U.S. President Joe Biden has officially completed his first year in office. It was a shaky start for Biden as ex-President Donald Trump resisted his exit at first, resulting, remember, in that insurrection. While Biden has made some gains, for example, with COVID-19 and unemployment, he inherited a divided American society and is at constant loggerheads with the Republicans. Now, let's speak to Dr. Bob Wekesa. He's a Deputy Director of the African Center for the Study of the United States at WETS. He's with us in the studio. We're very much interested, Dr. Wekesa, to know about Biden after 1 year, in particularly when it comes to our continent, Africa. Good afternoon, welcome. Thank you very much for your time. But in your view, overall, how has Biden's first year been, just overall?
I think overall, Biden has, if you put it on a scale, he has done better than we'll have expected. I think if you just reflect on it, if we had had another year of Trump, you know, it will have just exhausted everybody.
Yeah, so there's been an improvement just overall.
Yeah.
I mean, he came in with a lot of promise in terms of us in Africa. For example, when he was a senator many years ago, he visited apartheid South Africa, as we all know historically now. There were even clips of him speaking back in America about sanctions against apartheid at the time when he became the thing. But effectively, has he really improved the relation? Has he taken the relations with Africa to the next level?
No, I think only nominally. We can talk of symbolic improvement in relations. I think he's more courteous than his predecessor. He had the occasion to call African presidents one by phone. He even, you recall, early last year he talked to all the African heads of state when they were having the AU meeting in Addis Ababa. So that we can actually give him the benefit of doubt. On economic matters, we could actually also applaud him in terms of the donation of COVID-19 vaccines and so forth. But I think what Africans are looking for is actually more enhanced trade. Okay. I think Africans do not want aid, they want to trade. To trade.
But on COVID-19, before we leave that matter, because you've raised it, I mean, many Africans would have been disappointed with the travel bans, for example, including here in South Africa and the region, after the discovery by South African scientists of Omicron. I mean, America was one of those that jumped on the bandwagon following the UK to ban travel bans and put all kinds of restrictions.
No, I think that just brings us back to the old running notion that anything terrible that happens in Africa is far worse than anything terrible happening in the West. Because now, look, if we look at the numbers in the US itself, which we as Africans should be retaliating, but you know, we haven't done that. We should be saying we are banning Americans from coming here because their numbers have shot far beyond what happened on the continent.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned about trade, and is it the Secretary of State, Blinken, Antony Blinken? He visited parts of Africa, a couple of countries in September last year. He went to Kenya, he went to Nigeria, he went to Senegal. You think that was still not good enough in bolstering what Africa is hoping to get out of the US?
No, I think it was more symbolic than it was substantive. Because I think for Africans, at least at the policy level now, we have the African Continental Free Trade Area, where all countries are aligned, all have ratified. Most have ratified, at least you know, 3/4. And I think what we've been looking for from the US end is to hammer a deal and say, now this is the level of you know, investment and you know, investment promotion and so forth that we want to work with. What substantive levels of investment are you putting in? But in this particular Blinken visit to the continent, in fact, it was seen as kind of trying to subvert the Chinese on the continent, as it were.
It was like a counter of sorts,
right? Because
China's growing influence.
Certainly, in fact, because the Chinese were hosting, you know, Chinese and Africans were hosting the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, slightly a week or two, you know, later in Dakar, Senegal. So yeah.
Now, just I mean, each time that you've had a new president coming on, we always wonder in Africa, in Washington, will they have a good relations, or will they take the relations with Africa to the next level? But you are saying maybe a new focus on trade and investment could actually be a foreign policy success.
No, certainly. I think the current foreign policy of the US is focused heavily on democracy promotion. I think we do recall last year December 9th, 10th to 11th, there was that summit on democracy. That's really the push. But I think if you speak, in fact, privately to some of the U.S. trade and economics people, officials, those who are, say, in Prosper Africa, in Power Africa, or the commercial service officials, they will tell you that they are actually equally sometimes frustrated because they want to see that as the centerpiece of Africa-U.S. relations. But apart from the various appointments of African Americans who are always inclined towards the continent, I think we haven't seen any tangible thing coming up. In fact, as it is for South Africa specifically, we are hearing that actually South Africa might be knocked off AGOA. You know, and I think
why would the Americans want to do that?
No, I suppose it is the understanding that South Africa is not meeting some of the AGOA, you know, stipulations and principles and so forth. And for that reason, I think there's talk of that kind. And I think that then raises questions of how do we cooperate at the economic level if we are not coalescing and agreeing on the policies.
I was just about to say, when you mentioned the word coalescing, I was thinking, should Africa, using its new free continental trade area kind of thing, go to America as a bloc, or those individual state bilateral relations would still be okay? Should we, Africa, do a multilateral strategy rather than a bilateral strategy?
No, obviously Africa has to go by multilaterally.
Multilaterally.
In fact, Africans love multilateralism because when you are weak, you want to band together.
You're stronger together.
You're stronger together. Now, if you're powerful like the US, you want to go alone because you think you have muscle. But you know, if you put together all African, I mean, if you looked at African countries individually, they are, you know, the largest number of lowest developed countries: Malawi, Burundi, Central African Republic.
Yeah, just reminding me of that African proverb: if you want to go far, you can go fast. You can go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Certainly.
So it's a very interesting one. But back to Joe Biden. Now, from what I recall, how many American presidents have visited Africa?
I think
or Barack Obama did.
Barack did. George Bush did.
Yeah. But since 2010, I don't remember. In the last decade.
I think Obama visited 2015.
That was it.
That was the last one.
Yeah. So would it help the relations? I'm just asking you from your analysis. If Joe Biden planned a very thoughtfully a very careful, thought out trip, tour of the continent, not that symbolic one that his Secretary of State just did now, the Foreign Affairs Secretary of State guy, Anthony Blinken, did now in Senegal, Kenya, and Nigeria. Would it work?
No, I think it will work because high-level visits and the personal touch. We saw, you know, President Biden and President Ramaphosa in Europe during the G8 meeting. And you could see the chemistry that was there. It is, and you know, it just helps to inspire, you know, officials and citizens at other levels to work together. However, I don't see that visit coming soon because I think Biden is focused on the home front. The U.S. Itself is going through quite some major dramatic political developments with all these voting rights issues, with the filibuster issues, with the concerns about the midterm elections that happen in November. So as they say, politics is always local, even if it's global. So I think Biden might want to, first of all, harness and secure the home front before he does a visit here.
Africa is going to have to wait a little bit before Joe Biden even thinks about coming here. But anyway, thank you very much for your insights. Dr. Bob Wekesa is the Deputy Director of the African Center for the Study of the United States at Wits University, reflecting on Joe Biden's first year in office broadly, but mainly and particularly as it concerns relations with our continent of Africa. Still ahead on sport here with Murena Mutupi, among others.